Hi, and welcome to GatherVerse News Unscripted, where we bring you humanity-centered tech journalism. I'm Raphael Timmons, GVN producer and today's host. Today, we're talking about VR. Many people are already familiar with home headsets like Sony or Meta, but there's another way that virtual reality is making its way. Location-based virtual reality experiences which engage more human senses than just sight and sound. Our guest today to discuss the topic is Bob Cooney. Bob is an author, speaker, eight-time entrepreneur who's built a career accurately predicting the intersection of bleeding-edge tech and business trends. He is widely considered one of the leading voices in virtual reality and the metaverse, and has even been dubbed the world's best moderator. Bob, thanks for joining us on the show.
Dude, that's the best intro ever. Thank you.
Listen, man, we said it before. We're gonna manifest.
I have to admit, I wrote it though, so
see,
stay in transparency.
Well, listen. As far as I know, it's true. I love it. Let's get started. So
my brand is no bullshit. So
well, perfect then. So a lot of people are familiar with VR, with like the Oculus headset, Sony PlayStation headset. Those are really making their way into homes. But you're an expert, and you work in this field called location-based virtual reality. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's different than what people may be familiar with?
Yeah, look, I think, and I was just reflecting on this, Richard Streiber, when he was the president of HTC Vive, saw that they were really struggling penetrating the market back in, I don't know, 6-7 years ago now. And so they created this thing called Viveport Arcade, and he convinced game developers to license their software to arcades and created this environment where these arcades could pop up, and entrepreneurs opened VR arcades around the world, and it gave people their first experience with virtual reality in a way that was really controlled and impactful. And that just kind of took off around the world. The next thing you knew, there was 1,000 VR arcades by 2016, 2017. And so I think, I just want to give credit to HTC for being on the forefront of that and pushing that and supporting that, where a lot of other manufacturers have really focused just on the consumer market, which is obviously bigger and more lucrative. So.
Yeah, and a lot of these arcades, there's one actually not that far away from me, Sandbox VR here in Emeryville. They went through a tough period with COVID and stuff. There were a lot of headlines proclaiming the end of LBVR. 3 years later now, or 1 year out of COVID, or however long after. Where are we? Where's the industry at?
Yeah, look, I think COVID just wrecked the whole location-based entertainment industry, right? Movie theaters, well documented what happened to sports stadiums, sports teams, everything. And so I think specifically with VR arcades and VR, a lot of pundits said, oh, nobody's ever going to want to put a VR headset on their face again in a public space. And my research showed that people actually don't care. Like I call it hygiene theater, all of this stuff that you do to make people feel safe. Most people don't care about it. And as soon as these arcades opened back up, post-pandemic or even during the pandemic in some states.
I think we lost Bob there just for a second.
Raging back to virtual reality really quickly. And so I think I buffered there for a second, didn't I?
Yeah, it's okay. we got you.
So,
back,
and
Bob.
now it's growing, and now look, it's growing faster than ever. I think people have embraced it. The hardware solidifying a bit. The hardware was really not reliable for a long time. When you get these things in the public hands, and kids and adults, and they trash it, and so the maintenance cost of these systems was really high. And so now the manufacturers are coming back with hardware that's more durable, that's less expensive. The all-in-one headsets have been a game changer, eliminating HDMI cables and backpacks, and Wi-Fi 6E streaming now allows you to have high-end PCVR experiences without backpacks and cables. And so the tech is finally catching up with the operational requirements of the industry, and that's allowing the business to kind of go to its next level of growth.
That's awesome. For somebody who's going to go to like one of these arcades, what can they expect from an experience? How is it different from the VR headset they have at home?
Yeah, I think, it started out with a lot of room scale, HTC Vive Lighthouse 10 by 10 booths that you'd go in and you'd rent it for a half an hour, and there'd be a menu. There's a company called Springboard and a company called Synthesis, which built these consumer experience lobbies where you could go in and choose your game. Those businesses are challenging because really all you're doing as a business person is renting computers by the hour, and
Mm,
it got to become a bit of a race to zero. Now, the Quest 2, the Focus 3, the Pico 3, and Pico 4 have really enabled free roam experiences now. And you mentioned sandboxes. One of them, Zero Latency, is another one. Hero Zone's another one. There's a company called VR Cave, which makes VR escape rooms. And you put on a headset and you're in a room that's somewhere between 400 square feet and 2,000 square feet with your
wow.
friends, and you're walking around. And the inside out tracking has now gotten good enough to where you can reliably run in VR and not worry about, lag or drift or the things that made it dangerous in the early days. And so, yeah, and so and what we're going to see now is VR is going to replace laser tag. And so laser tag, I started one of the first laser tag companies in the world in 1989, and I think you'll see over the next 5 years virtual reality just kind of supplanting laser tag as the primary technology in these big multiplayer arenas.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you addressed some of the challenges there, and also some of the things that are, really promising about the industry. We focus mostly on it from a gaming standpoint, entertainment standpoint. Are there any applications for LBVR, VR in general, that go outside of that to like solving real world problems?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I think there's a big discussion about how much entertainment solves real world problems, right? I think the reason that entertainment exists is to distract us from our real world problems, right? And so, and so I think that primarily that's what happens. I do think that in this age of more and more online media, and there's been a lot of documentation about and research around depression and loneliness, and younger generations of kids not meeting with their friends and meeting online. The
Mm,
ability to have experiences that you can't do at home, to bring people out to play together in a physical environment where they can see each other and touch each other. One of the things I love, you mentioned Sandbox VR. One of the things I love about what they do is they have a mechanic in the game where when you die, one of your teammates has to put their hand on your shoulder, and they use hand tracking for that
cool.
in order to revive you. Right. So they bring this real physical touch into that environment, which might seem gimmicky, but we have these human needs. And so, I'm not going to sit here and say that location-based VR is going to solve the world problems, but I do think bringing people together to socialize in person, get them out of the house, get them offline into venues where they can be together and share an experience, I do think that those are meaningful. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. More connection. I mean, we spend so much time on our phones, on our laptops, siloing, but mostly isolated. If we're doing that digitally, it could be cool. Actually,
Yeah.
I had a question. Are you in VR right now? I see this awesome background. Looks like
Uh,
you're out enjoying the
I
sun.
I am not in VR. That is actually a Volkswagen
Ah,
bus that they lifted up on the second story of a tree house in Ecuador. And I'm at a
wow.
place called the Balsa Surf Camp, free plug, in Montanita, which is a little surf town in Ecuador. And I got in last night, and yeah, and it's totally rad. So that's my bedroom. I sleep in that at night.
That is so, so cool. Bob, I guess just to wrap us up here, where do you see VR in 10 years? What does the future look like?
I love that question. Look, I'm one of these guys that believes that virtual reality is going to be the next computing platform. Love him,
Mm,
hate him, whatever. I think Zuckerberg was right in betting the farm on with Meta on trying to own the operating system for his company. As an entrepreneur, I respect that move. As an entrepreneur, I have challenges with the way the company's behaved regarding privacy and manipulation of people's cognitive states knowingly. Like I've got massive issues there. So there's a paradox there, but I do believe
yeah.
it's going to be the next computing platform. I'm really excited to see what Apple does when they come to market, hopefully in a couple of weeks. And I think that could become a game changer for all of us. I know we're all in this industry in the VR industry, holding our breath, waiting to see what happens there. And look, and I do hope that, and I wonder if, Mark says that he wants to, use VR as a means to connect people. And I do believe that as the avatars get better, as facial tracking gets better, as eye tracking gets better, and I think that's happening really quickly. The ability for us to connect with people in ways that are meaningful in a virtual environment that's not Zoom in 2D. The virtual telepresence is really powerful, and if as these headsets get cheaper and better, the fact that everybody can have one for $300 and literally be there with their loved ones or their friends in the room and feel like they're there, because we've become this global community. Like online gaming has really, the younger generations, their friends are all over the world, right? They're not in their neighborhoods. And so I think virtual reality has the ability to connect these younger generations of people whose friends are disconnected geographically. And I'm hoping that that's where we go with this stuff, whether that's, location based or in our underwear. I don't think it really matters.
Totally. That's an exciting vision for the future as a gamer with friends all over the world, and just with friends all over the world in general, being able to connect with them is an exciting concept. Bob Cooney, thank you so much for joining us. VR metaverse expert, surfer extraordinaire, and the world's best moderator. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And
you're pretty good yourself, Raphael. That was great. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it, man. And looking forward to connecting soon. Thanks so much for coming on, Bob.
All right. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, guys. That was Bob Cooney. Awesome interview. On tomorrow's show, Lisa Bernard will be talking. I actually don't have that pulled up right now, so I apologize. But you guys can check LinkedIn. The flyer will be up shortly. Lisa Bernard is our host tomorrow. This has been GatherVerse News Unscripted. Thank you again, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.